Well, good morning, Chamber, and to the entire city of Guelph. Thank you so much for joining in and listening to my State of the City address, which is, as you can already tell, very different from previous years. Like probably many of you, I'm doing this from home. I'm at my kitchen table in my house here. And yes, I am wearing jeans. So let's get that out of the way right away. Thank you again for having me. And I'm really looking forward to spending some moments with you now just to kind of walk you through some issues that I think are really important that occurred last year. That's usually what I do. I kind of do a look back and then I kind of do a little bit of a look forward. And of course, the look forward this year into 2021 will probably be a little bit of a maybe crystal ball moment because we don't know exactly what's happening, but I still want to tackle that issue and address that too. Before I really dive in, I just really want to thank the Chamber. Personally, from what I've seen the Chamber do, especially last year in 2020, has been phenomenal. Shakiba, your leadership, the board of directors, your leadership, and all the employees and staff, thank you so much for everything that you've been doing to help businesses within our city and all of your advocacy work to upper levels of government. It's been a game changer, really, for seeing some things actually move. The dial was moved on several items. So thank you very much. And also to the sponsors, different world with this being all virtual now, and for you to still commit to being a sponsor for these types of events really helps out the Chamber, and we do appreciate that as well. While I'm in the thank you mode, I should definitely make sure that I address my council colleagues. Thank you to each and every one of you. This last year has not been fully on my shoulders. Of course, we are a team, and being a team means we still had to wade through all of last year together. And I really appreciate the phone calls and advice and emails and messages back and forth on numerous topics, whether it was COVID related or not. So thank you very much to my council colleagues. And also to city staff, every single one of you. 2020 again was a rough year, lots of unknowns, and to the executive team, to Scott Stewart, our CAO, to Trevor Lee, to Colleen Clackbush, and to Keely Dedman, our deputy CAOs, just a big thank you from me, and of course I speak on behalf of council and the community really on this one. Your guidance and leadership has been phenomenal. So thank you so very, very much. And with that, why don't we dig in with sort of a top 10 issues that I think really defined 2020. And I'm just going to, I don't really have a lot of notes here at all in front of me. I'm going to just kind of blab and go through a lot of things that I think were huge highlights for 2020. And as I speak afterwards, I'll just sort of edit and throw some slides up and some pictures up and some facts and some data as we kind of wade through these things over the next few moments together. So let's start. So I think right off the top, I would like to start by talking about a couple really large capital projects that we were able to approve to move forward to the next steps in our community, long-awaited capital projects. The first one I'll talk about is the downtown library approval. So in the fall last year, I think it was October, council finally approved the new downtown library. It will be around 88,000 square feet or so. It's going to be almost triple the size of our current one. The current one, of course, no one disagrees, is completely past its prime. It's also not accessible. It's not up to date and not relevant, I guess, for what the future of a library will be and need to be for a city. Huge round of applause to that finally getting done. Now, I know there was some controversy around, costing of that, and that's okay. That's just personal opinions. But at the end of the day, it will move forward. And so we're hoping that gets settled, and I hope to have ribbon cuttings on that probably in about 3 years, maybe 4 tops. That would be really great if we could get going on that. So the full cost of that that council approved was no more than $62 million. To accomplish that, it did require a tax levy for about 18 to 20 years. And so that's where a little bit of the kind of, differences of opinion sat. But no matter, after a council decision is made, we're moving forward. And so, a couple years ago, when the original price kind of range was a little bit lower, at my State of the City address, I actually mentioned how important it would be for the private sector and the public at large to be able to really rally around this. I'll be the first one to make the first ask in this room and to all of Guelph. If you're interested in exploring ways of partnering with the library on this new project, I want you to reach out to the library board. Perhaps this is a time where you or your company wants to furnish a room, buy equipment, or more. If ever there was a community project to rally around, it is this one. Where will it be built? Everyone should know it's going to be on the Baker Street redevelopment. So when we talk about the library, I guess maybe I'm just talking for me personally, the library is, it's going to be on Baker Street, but it's about the entire Baker Street redevelopment that I'm really excited about. And so that's going to have mixed use. The entire place is going to be redone. There's going to be some underground parking. There's going to be a couple of towers of buildings with units in it, residential units in there. We have a high percentage there that we want to make sure is affordable units as well as market units, more commercial opportunities there. And then lots of green space throughout. So you can imagine turning this parking lot finally from what I have often said, an underperforming asset, into a performing asset for the community. Downtowns are important to invest in, and this Baker Street redevelopment, once done, is going to be, reach out, as I said, to the library component of that if you have any further questions. But the entire project of the Baker Street redevelopment is going to be amazing. The second one that council approved was the long sought after South End Recreational Center. So that's going to be positioned right behind Bishop Mac High School. It's going to be huge. It's going to be, I think I heard, it might be like double the size of Victoria Road Rec Center and a third bigger than the West End. So huge. And that was a cost of $80 million. Now, the difference between that one and the library was that a large percentage, there's a small percentage of the library that is covered by development charges, but about 85% or so of the rec center in the South End will be covered by development charges, not by taxes. And so that's a little bit of a difference in the costing of that. But again, another public resource, a public facility that is dearly needed in the South End of Guelph, has been on the wish list for a very long time. So my hopes that we're going to see the sod turning of that happen maybe this year into next year, and finally get that up and running in the next few years as well. And so that's going to be great for that end of town, especially because a lot of growth is happening in that area of our city. So 2 huge projects, the downtown library, Baker Street, and the South End Rec Center, were finally approved in 2020. And so really excited about those things, and I hope you guys are too. I want to now just look at what happened with council in December, because every December, unless it's an election year, we have our city budget. And so we just passed our city budget in December for 2021. And I just want to hit some highlights for everybody right now about that. So the total impact was 2.25%. Now, it's important, and I try to explain this as much as I can, that there is what I would say is a controllable and an uncontrollable part of the budget. So the taxpayers at Guelph, of course, fund it all, but there are things that council and the mayor cannot control. They are what's called outside boards. Outside boards are like the police, public health, the Downtown Guelph Business Association, the library, the Elliott Long-Term Care, what else am I missing? GRCA. Those types of things are all outside of our control. We do not have direct oversight over those things. And so of the 2.25%, 1.2% of that was all those boards, all those. And so what was left from that is what was passed by council. And so some highlights on that. We did decide to have a wage freeze this year for both mayor, council, and all the non-union management. And so we do recognize the situation that we are in, especially from the impacts of COVID. And so that was something that we did decide this year as a council. We also had well over $1 million worth of one-time funding for some certain aspects of our city. So one of the things that we did was we really increased the amount of grants through our community well-being grant initiatives. Not only did we have sort of the basic funding that's always been there, but we improved it by several $100,000s so that any kind of COVID impact related things, people could apply for that. So stay tuned throughout the year as more opportunities are available for people to apply for funds because of COVID impacts. The other thing we did was we waived all fees, so zero fees for volunteer checks this year. That we felt was important because especially in this COVID arena that we're in, we really want people to be encouraged and have no barriers in front of them at this time to be looking to volunteer. And so, if you're interested in volunteering, especially because our nonprofits and our charities in the city have really been impacted, we really appreciate you all looking to see what you can do to give back to those nonprofits and charities. But of course, when you give back to them, you're really giving back to the people in our community. There's also the PIN network in town, People Information Network, who is a great resource and a funnel for people that might have questions about where they might be able to volunteer. So check that out. That was a good initiative. Another one that was approved by council was we waived, not waived entirely, I wish, 50% of the licensing fees for businesses were waived. So it's a 50% break this year on business licensing. We hired 4 new paramedics. We are going to start red light cameras being implemented in the city at certain locations. And we are also moving to bi-weekly curbside yard waste pickup. And that's been kind of an ask for a long time. And so that is going to start to be implemented in 2021 as well. Of course, everything else is sort of foundational. Capital projects, infrastructure, the operating costs are all embedded within that number, that 2.25 number. Again, I was very pleased at sort of where we landed. These are just some of the highlights of what we did to try to support the community through this time. And really, I've seen it myself, and I'm sure many of you have. The federal government and the provincial government have also done one-time spending to try to get everyone through this. And even though the municipality doesn't have a lot of avenues and tools, financial tools, to directly help people or businesses too much, we really stepped up to the plate, I felt council did, for the 2021 budget by implementing some of these things for these one-time spending decisions that are really going to help the community through 2021. One of the things that really made me extremely proud to be the mayor, and I'm sure just proud to be a citizen of this city, is just how everyone stepped up over the last several months. I could literally spend hours here talking about just everyday citizens saying, you know what, I'm going to start sewing masks and drop them off at the hospital for our frontline workers. Or I'm going to start saying if a senior citizen in this city needs help getting groceries or food, I'll go buy it for them. I'll drop it off at their front door for them. Again, tons of stories like that. And so thank you to all the citizens that did that. Oh, like the parades, the birthday parades that were created across our city, putting smiles on everyone across our city as they went around to celebrate birthdays. Thank you. Those are the types of things that really were moments where everyone was able to smile during these difficult times. So thank you very much. And then from the business side of things, my goodness gracious, what a city we live in. We had, large manufacturing places like Linamar or Danby and others that were able to, start working on ventilators or equipment, UV cleaning equipment, making freezers for vaccines, helping out with HVAC systems for air quality, and I could go on and on and on. The University of Guelph, all their research that they did there, their departments, several different departments and partnerships with others in regards to rapid testing, research that helped with anything to do really with COVID. It all came together out of Guelph. We got to remind ourselves of these things about how our community really stepped up during this time. So a huge thank you to everyone. And the one other thing on this issue that I'll just describe too is a lot of the businesses, especially the small, medium-sized businesses, they were really hit hard. And I really found that the citizens of Guelph have really embraced the shop local mantra. And I believe that we're doing that now, but I think even as we come out of COVID, I really feel like we're really having an effort to continue to surround those small and medium-sized businesses with support. So I ask the community to continue to do that, not just now, but afterwards. And to all those small and medium-sized businesses that even while you were struggling, you continued to give back to the community. I think of many different restaurants in the city that gave out thousands of meals for free to the most vulnerable, to frontline workers in our city. Even though they were struggling, they gave back. And that made me extremely proud as the mayor. And I just want to really thank you on behalf of council to everyone that really stepped up to help during this last year. And let's keep it going because we're really good at it. Another kind of hot topic, I guess, that has really risen to the top through last year and is going to continue moving through for the next several years is that of supportive housing. And I just really want to thank the community again for really trying to understand what supportive housing is. I see a lot of people taking the time to understand it, to educate themselves on really what supportive housing is. And so supportive housing has been needed for several years. It's kind of complicated because, where do you build it? Who builds it? Who runs it? Who pays for it? And a lot of that really needed to come from upper levels of government because they really should be responsible for it. What this virus has really done and shown the upper levels of government is what activist and advocacy groups and municipalities have been saying for a long time. We have to get our most vulnerable out of tents in the forest into supportive housing for those that are in most need from either an addiction issue or mental health issue and so on. And so I am very pleased to see that these types of projects are finally coming forward, and they're doing so in collaboration with the upper levels of government and some funding that's happening there. So actually, speaking of upper levels of government, I'll just take a moment, and I do want to sincerely thank our MP, Lloyd Longfield, and our MPP, Mike Schreiner. The collaboration that we've been having kind of weekly and bi-weekly meetings throughout the entire last year. We have just really bounced ideas off each other and worked very well. And I just want to take that moment to really thank them. But back to the upper levels of government when it comes to supportive housing, it has been a game changer. There is now funding that's happening from the upper levels of government, especially through the federal government on this particular issue. And I just think that we're going to start to see these projects come to light in our city, finally. And so there are two projects that maybe might know about. I want to start by talking about the Parkview Motel, and that really the proponent of that, the developer of that is for the Parkview Motel is the Drop-In Center. And then there's another one, and again, seeing the private sector get involved here is unbelievable. So SkyDev, a company of Skyline in town, owned a piece of property in the Willow area. They have donated that piece of property. They have also donated all of their service, their planning services behind a project to have supportive housing there as well. Now, it needs to still go through the right planning processes and engagement with the community, and I understand that. But I also understand that as these processes continue to go, we still have people sleeping on the streets or in the tents in the forests. And we need to make sure that we look to actually wrap these people with the right supports in a home, in a place that is their own. And so I would ask the community to please educate yourself around the benefits to supportive housing. I would also ask the community to make sure that we're not discriminating against those that find themselves in these most vulnerable situations, and that we look to this as a way of bringing our community together. As I've said in the past, you know, infrastructure is important, fixing the roads and the potholes and the pipes in the ground, or building a rec center or building a library. Those are all very important. How much more important is the infrastructure of our people? We are all citizens of Guelph, no matter what situation you are in your life. And so let's talk positively about supportive housing. Let's wrap ourselves around potential projects. Let's wrap ourselves around these people, because it will be a game changer in their life and in turn for the lives of everyone in our community. So look forward to more supportive housing opportunities as we move into 2021 and beyond. You know, last summer, our entire city, our entire province, country, the entire world really awoken to the issue of racial injustice that, in my view, it really wasn't being addressed. And I think it was under the radar, and it unfortunately took the death of George Floyd and the protests and the marches for us to really realize, yeah, you know what? We have our own issues in Guelph too. So we need to call it out. We need to own that. And now we need to address it. And so I am very pleased of the work that is happening at the city of Guelph. And people need to know that we take this very seriously. And so we have had a great first workshop in regards to understanding these issues. We have had several reports now and information reports that have come to council to describe the steps that we will be taking alongside the community in regards to these issues moving forward, and to look for opportunities for change. We need to be accountable to change, whether that be processes or policies to address these issues. We need to be accountable to them. And all of the work that I'm seeing to date has been excellent. And when I say that we're doing this alongside the community, I think that's a very important thing to say. It's not the mayor and council saying, oh, this is what we're going to do, follow us. No, no, no. It is us following beside, or us following from behind as the community leads us through these topics. And so I am very thankful to many groups in the city of Guelph and individuals that have called me, that have become a part of the processes and changes that we're looking at implementing at City Hall. We're going to be doing lots of work in 2021 through our community plan as we revisit that. And so I'd ask the community to be fully engaged in that. We're doing our own internal work at the city of Guelph around our HR department, how we are treating employees, hiring employees. All of these things together are really going to come together to be an even better, more welcoming, inclusive, and accepting community. And just a week ago, Council also approved the City of Guelph to join the Inclusive municipalities. That's actually a program that really allows, there's now there's about 82 cities that have signed up for this and declared their intention of being a part of this group, where we can share the good things that we're learning with those cities, but we can also learn from those cities what they're doing, and we can adopt those things to make our city even better. So thank you to our own leaders internally for really pushing and driving this forward, but a massive thank you, and you know who you are, I can't name you all, to those outside of the city that have stepped up to say, now that we know this is an issue, we got to be accountable to move forward in positive steps through this journey in the upcoming years to make a big difference when it comes to these issues. So thank you very much. Looking forward to continue to work on these issues. So I don't know about you, but there's always kind of a little bit of silver linings, throughout all of 2020 on the issues that really took us away from our focus on some other issues. There's some things that popped up that really I thought were great. And speaking of popped up, patios popped up in our downtown core. The dining district popped up in our downtown core. And I have never seen, ever, our downtown look so lively and inviting with all those patios and the downtown dining district. If you'll remember last year at my State of the City address, which happened right before the first wave of COVID, I gave a little bit of a vision of a pedestrianized, focused downtown. But I want you to join with me for a moment about what our downtown could potentially become. Imagine what it would be like if our downtown were a place where the streets were purely designed for pedestrians, cyclists, and public transit first, and cars second. Imagine a place where Guelph could get around more easily and comfortably, on foot, on bikes, on transit, with cars only designated in certain places or at certain times, perhaps to make deliveries as an example. What if everyone who arrived downtown by car had to park in one of our outside parkades, but then visited all the shops downtown or restaurants by foot or bike? What if the parking spots became benches, planters, patios spilling out onto the streets? How would you feel not, sucking in gas fumes? Instead, what you're hearing is music downtown, people, nature. What if being people-centric and not car-centric in our downtown makes us a safer and healthier and friendlier place and improves tourism? This vision is possible, and I'm not afraid to champion it. They have implemented measures like this on the streets in Toronto. They have done it on larger scale cities like in Copenhagen and Belgian city of Ghent. Those cities tell the exact same story. Nobody wanted to do it at first. They thought the sky was going to fall, and now it's the best thing they've ever done. I'm not suggesting we close our downtown streets to cars tomorrow. Perhaps we could look at maybe starting this just on a few weekends in August, or align it with some of the events happening over a series of years in the downtown. But what I'm saying is, we should have a conversation about what is possible. 10 years from now, do we want our downtown to just be slightly prettier than it is right now? Or do we want to be bold and push ourselves towards a downtown that is truly a destination, not for cars, but for people? Who was to know that just a few months later, we would actually be doing that? And council, thank you for allowing the approvals of council to go forward so quickly. Thank you. To staff that helped create the policies and the programs around enabling that stuff to happen so quickly, thank you. And I just know that it was a huge game changer for our city. It really was. And some of the things and the comments that I've heard have said, please continue to do that. When is the last time you've thought, let's go downtown?
Years.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I think this is the best downtowns ever lived.
Really?
The streets, no traffic, all the seating right out to the middle of the road.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And
it's the best atmosphere I've ever seen.
so how do you like the atmosphere?
It's awesome.
Yeah?
You should keep continue it. It needs to go every summer. It needs to be like this. It's,
Awesome.
Obviously, if this is a success, hopefully the city will sort of look at it and be a positive thing and maybe move it forward.
So what's happened, we kind of did last year as like a pilot project, and now our city is going to be doing a survey with the people in the downtown core, the business owners, to say, hey, what worked, what didn't work, what could we do better? And all of that's going to be compiled into a report coming to council pretty soon in the next maybe couple of months, where we can then give a good heads up to everyone in the downtown core so they can plan on what to do for this coming summer and into the fall. My personal preference is I certainly hope that we do continue to allow all those patios, that we allow the dining district to happen, maybe on only certain days, maybe not completely closed off during the whole time. But having the ability to do that, I just believe that it was probably one of the best things our downtown has done in a long time. I think past COVID, I think it will be a huge tourism opportunity. We'll be able to program it possibly better with more arts, more culture, live music, all in the downtown core to draw people down there and experience what a beautiful place that is. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the dining district and the patios as much as I did. And I really hope that it continues in the years to come. So at the end of 2020, it was also the end of my 2-year term as the chair of the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus. And so who was to know that over the last 2 years, I would be leading and chairing through 2 big issues. The first one, if you'll recall, was the cutbacks, the retroactive cutbacks that happened from the province to municipalities after we passed our budgets. Then all of a sudden some funding was cut back. That was a major problem. And so myself and many other mayors across the province really led the charge to get the province to reverse course on that. And they did. So that was good. Got that all cleared up, and then all of a sudden COVID happened. Now municipalities can't run deficits. It's against the law. It was becoming a huge problem for us during COVID, both with expenses for safety and health reasons, but also a huge loss of revenue. You can imagine transit, millions lost there. Our arts and culture, the River Run Center, the Sleeman Center, things like that, all completely cut back. And so when we couldn't run deficits, we needed to go to the upper levels of government. And again, through the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, we were able to help amplify the voice of the Federation of the Canadian Municipalities to ask the federal and the provincial governments to be able to help out municipalities across the country. It really did come with a full court press and a little bit of finger pointing here and there. But finally, we did get that done. And I just do want to thank the province. I want to thank the federal government, both to the Premier and to the Prime Minister, for really following through and giving funds in 2020 to help with that issue for municipalities. Now, in my last meeting in December, before I was done my term, I did have some ministers on the phone for our meeting, and I did say, just because you gave us money in 2020 and you thought that would be it, it will not be it. So they know that we are going to be continuing to ask for help as we navigate through 2021, because we do know that we will have some major issues when it comes to, again, loss of revenue and also some expenditures when it comes to COVID. So really looking for help from the upper levels of government still, but very thankful for what they did in 2020. Well, there's the highlights of 2020. And yes, there are hundreds more that I could give to you, but you don't want to hear me talk too long. I know there's going to be a question and answer, a live question and answer thing coming up right now, and so I am looking forward to engaging with everyone around that. Before I sign off, I do want to just talk a little bit about what to expect for 2021. Well, this is normally a time when a mayor would probably, at a State of the City address, go, and this is what I want to accomplish in 2021, or this is my vision. And I'm going to, instead of talking about, those types of things right now, I'd rather just say that this is my desire for 2021 for the city of Guelph. It has nothing to do with a program. It has nothing to do with a building. What my hope is for our city for 2021 is that we are the most kind and patient and loving community in Canada. And I know that we've been showing it through 2020, but I also know that this COVID virus and the pandemic has really taken a strain over this last several months, and probably going to be now over a year or more. And so I want you to know that I hear you when I know that you're stressed. I hear you when you're getting tired of listening to me as a broken record and others say, please listen to the public health guidelines. But I'm asking everyone to please embrace kindness when we go into 2021. That's my vision. That's my hope for this year. Especially when it comes to online dialogue. I'm seeing a real big increase of that. Very negative comments and negative things being said. No one needs it right now. Instead, let's turn that energy from being keyboard warriors into figuring out how you can volunteer. Because as I said earlier, we've waived the fees for any police checks. So give it a go. Maybe instead you can figure out a way of communicating in a safe and healthy way with some neighbors or some others in the city that you never really knew before. How can you extend kindness to your neighbor? How can you extend kindness to the business sector? How can the business sector send kindness back to the citizen? Let's just embrace kindness. That's my vision for 2021. No matter what we do or what we say with each other, that is my goal for 2021. And I really hope that you would join with me in focusing us on that. So with that, thank you to the Chamber. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to my family, to Rachel, my kids, Anakin and Adelaide, for everything that you've done over the years to help me in this position, and especially in this last year. Take care. I look forward to the Q&A. Bye-bye.